A lot of you know that protein and fiber are two of my favorite keys to an optimal diet. But how can you hit both of them simultaneously without feeling excessively full? In this episode, you're going to learn about why protein and fiber are key to an optimal diet. You're going to learn about how much of each that you should be eating based on your size and your goals. And then third and finally, how you should go about adding certain foods into your meal plan. I'm going to be giving you an extensive list of foods and some numbers during this episode, so I'd highly recommend that you take some notes if this is something that you're looking to implement. But before we dive in, if you're listening on the Apple Podcast app or on Spotify, make sure that you hit the follow button. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit like and subscribe. Today, I am really excited to talk about a topic that I almost get more questions about than almost anything, I feel like, and that is how to hit protein and fiber goals simultaneously. Now, if you guys are in the 10-week transformation or have done the 10-week transformation before, you know how much I harp on the importance of protein and fiber, and that's oftentimes why I get so many questions about it, right? It's because people make goals that hit a certain amount of protein and a certain amount of fiber, but it can be a little bit tricky in order to hit those goals and not feel like you're eating too much. And that's oftentimes because people just are not used to eating those particular types of foods, and they're not sure which foods have the highest amount of protein, have the highest amount of fiber. And today we're going to talk about this conversation through kind of a three-layered lens, if you will. The first one is why protein and fiber are important. Then we'll talk about how much protein and fiber you should be consuming. And then third and finally, we're going to extensively dive into how to hit these goals. I'm going to give you specific foods. I'm going to give you specific numbers. So make sure that you take out your pen and paper or the notes section of your phone and take down some notes, because this stuff is going to be really great. And if your goal is to build muscle, lose fat, or just optimize your health and optimize it for health and longevity and just feeling good, then this is an episode that you need to be taking notes on. So let's dive in. Part one, why is protein and fiber super important? We're going to go through this relatively quickly, but we're going to start with protein. A few reasons why protein is super important is because of the ability to maintain and build muscle mass, which is something that most of you guys know. The second one is how satiating it is, or how filling of a macronutrient it is, which prevents us from overeating on things that we shouldn't be overeating on. Thirdly, protein, the buildup or the makeup of protein is amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks for all the tissues that make you, for your hair, your nails, your skin. Everything that makes you is built up of amino acids, which is where you get amino acids from protein. Then fourth, it helps to make sure that you've got stable hormone levels. Fifth and finally, it helps to regulate your blood sugar levels when you have a healthy source of protein in well-balanced meals. So that's a quick little dive on why protein is important. Why is fiber important? I've got 6 different reasons here. Number 1 is satiation, because of how filling it is and it makes you not overeat. Number 2 is how it helps to improve your digestion. 3 is it helps to improve your gut health because of the prebiotic nature of fiber. 4th, it helps to stabilize your blood sugar levels. 5th, it can help lower cholesterol. And 6th, and finally, it helps to produce short-chain fatty acids in the gut, which helps to improve your immune system. So again, diving deeper into those things is our conversations for a different podcast, but those are a quick little rundown of why protein and fiber are really key components to your health and your body composition. Now, part 2 is how much protein and fiber should you be consuming? Protein perspective, you should be aiming for anywhere from 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight per day. Let me say that again. 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight per day. How much fiber should you be consuming? Generally speaking, anywhere from 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day, or more specifically, about 15 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories. So if you are, let's say, a smaller female, then closer to 25 grams. If you are a larger male, anywhere from maybe 35 to maybe even 40 grams. Again, based on the number of calories that you might be consuming on a daily basis. And from my understanding, you can't really over-consume on fiber unless you're making a huge jump from eating no fiber to a ton of fiber. Then you might have some digestive issues and some bowel movement issues, if you will. And then the last thing I want to say when it comes to how much protein and fiber is oftentimes with some of my clients, we're leveraging protein and fiber intake as an optimal diet in order to see fat loss. And so in order to have fat loss, we need to be in a calorie deficit, but I want people to be in a high quality diet calorie deficit. And so I want you to hit your protein and fiber marks, but I don't want you to hit them at the expense of being in a calorie deficit. Meaning, I don't want you to feel like you're overeating on protein and then you're eating actually too many calories that prevent you from losing body fat. So that's kind of the last thing is, but you shouldn't be if your other macronutrients are in check. But 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight per day. And then fiber per day is 25 to 35 grams or 15 grams per 1,000 calories. But you want to make sure, especially if your goal is body fat loss, that you stay in a calorie deficit while hitting those numbers. Okay, now let's talk about actually how to hit these numbers on a daily basis. One of the things that's really important to understand is when you're looking at like a food label and the ingredients list and the macro breakdown on the back of the food is you need to understand the protein to calorie ratio and the fiber to calorie ratios. So for example, let's take, these are two opposite ends of the spectrum, but hopefully it makes you more aware of the situation and how different foods provide a whole lot different protein to calorie ratio. So for example, if I'm eating a chicken breast, I can get 31 grams of protein for 165 calories from chicken. When it comes to something like a scoop of almond butter, now this isn't one scoop of almond butter, this is gonna be a few scoops of almond butter, but it takes 600 calories of almond butter to get to 20 grams of protein. So let me say that again, 165 calories of chicken gives you 31 grams of protein, while 600 calories of almond butter gets you 20 grams of protein. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying almond butter is bad. What I am saying is in order to hit your protein goals, you can't build your meal around almond butter. That can be a small additional way to get a little bit more protein, but it's not going to be the way that you can hit your protein marks while still being able to be in a calorie deficit. The best way to do that is going to be from high quality animal sources of protein like pasture raised organic chicken, ground turkey, grass-fed beef, wild caught fish, etc. So you need to understand the protein to calorie ratios. Another great example in comparison is ground beef versus quinoa. So ground beef, for 175 calories of ground beef, I can get about 26 grams of protein. For 120 calories of quinoa, I'm only going to get 4.5 grams of protein. Again, I love quinoa. I have it every once in a while, but I'm not, in order to hit my protein goals, I'm not having quinoa as the main thing that I am building my meal around. I'm building my meal around the protein of lean ground beef, and then quinoa can just be that additional little bit to get me the last 10, 15% of the way to my protein goals. So ensure that when you're building out your meal plan and you're picking a protein source for each of your meals, you're making sure that you're picking a protein source that has a good protein to calorie ratio. Now let's go to the fiber side of the story. When it comes to comparing, let's say fruits, let's compare a banana to raspberries. I can get 50 calories of raspberries and 6.5 grams of fiber, whereas 90 calories of a banana gets me 2.6 grams of fiber. Again, I love bananas. I have them pretty regularly, but if you're looking to hit a fiber goal and you're looking to optimize for fiber and less calories, then you would benefit from choosing something like raspberries or blackberries or blueberries where they have a higher fiber to calorie ratio. And then if I'm going to compare two different starches, like white rice compared to lentils, well, 130 calories of white rice is only half a gram of fiber, whereas 115 calories of lentils is 8 grams of fiber. So you get a lot more bang for your buck from the fiber end of the spectrum with lentils than you do white rice. Again, not saying white rice is bad, not saying white rice is something that you should not have. I am simply saying that you're going to get more bang for your buck from a fiber perspective from something like the lentils than white rice. So it's really important to, when you're looking to lose body fat, understand the protein to calorie ratio and the fiber to calorie ratio in order to hit these numbers while staying in a calorie deficit. Now, I'm going to give you some more specific food sources here that are excellent sources of lean protein that have good protein to calorie ratios, and the same thing from a fiber perspective. When it comes to choosing protein sources that have the best protein to calorie ratio, you mainly want to choose leaner sources of protein that have less fat in them. Now, this is not to say that full fat sources of protein or higher fat sources of protein are bad sources of protein. They should maybe just be part of your diet, but not what you eat all the time, especially if you're looking to lose body fat. Keep that in mind. From a breakfast perspective, you can have non-fat or low-fat Greek yogurt, non-fat or low-fat cottage cheese, something like turkey bacon rather than regular bacon, and then making sure that you might have some egg whites rather than just eggs. Again, not demonizing eggs, not demonizing regular bacon, but when it comes to hitting a calorie mark and being in a calorie deficit, then you would benefit from not always having bacon and not always having tons and tons of eggs, but maybe having 2 eggs and then half a cup of egg whites. Or maybe having, if you really love bacon, maybe having bacon 1 day a week and then turkey bacon on another couple of days. When it comes to lunches and dinners, protein sources like chicken, ground turkey, a lean ground beef like 90% or greater of ground beef, or 85% or greater ground beef, or like a sirloin steak, those are going to be some great sources of protein that you can have that are more typical for lunches and dinners that are going to be maybe a little bit more friendly on the protein to calorie ratio standpoint. Now, foods that are high in protein but also might be a little bit higher in fat, like eggs, bacon, higher fat percentage ground beef, fatty fish, and pork. Again, not bad sources, not unhealthy foods. But if you are looking to stay in a calorie deficit and you are excessively eating those foods, then you might be knocking yourself out of a calorie deficit simply because of the fat content. Again, fat is not bad. Fat is simply more calorically dense, and so it can be something that you might need to look at when it comes to hitting a calorie deficit. So those are some good lean protein sources. When it comes to some fiber sources, there's going to be a few different categories that I talk about, and there's going to be veggies, fruits, legumes, grains and seeds, and nuts, and maybe some other foods. So when it comes to foods that are high in fiber but also have a good fiber to carb ratio, vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and artichokes are really, really great food sources that you can add in. Broccoli and Brussels sprouts, oftentimes those are my 2 top favorite vegetables personally, because of their, obviously I love their taste. Honestly, I love the taste, but also because they're pretty good in fiber as well. But then artichokes is something that I don't eat enough of, but I absolutely love the taste of them. And they can be really easy to add into salads. So if you're looking to increase the fiber content of your salads, then add some artichoke hearts in there. When it comes to fruits, your raspberries, blackberries, blueberries are great are really high in fiber, low in calories. Apples are pretty good in fiber and calories. And then avocados have a lot of fiber. Now, really healthy form of fat as well, but they can rack up in calories relatively quickly, but still a great source of fiber. Then when it comes to legumes, lentils, very, very high in fiber and pretty high in protein, especially for a legume, and especially for a carbohydrate. So that's an awesome one. I love me some lentils. And then black beans are high in fiber, and chickpeas also have a decent fiber to carb ratio / fiber to calorie ratio. When it comes to maybe other grains and seeds, chia seeds have a decent amount of fiber in them. Flax seeds have a decent amount of fiber in them. Again, you're probably going to have maybe like a tablespoon of one and or both of those in any particular meal, but those are some because you don't want to overdo it on calories, but those are a couple that have good fiber content. Quinoa has pretty good fiber content, relatively good protein content, and then oats as well have a pretty good fiber content and a relatively okay protein content, all things considered. And then lastly, almonds have a decent fiber ratio, pistachios have a decent fiber ratio, and pumpkin seeds have a decent fiber ratio as well. So a lot of different options that I just threw at you to hopefully add into a little bit more of your meal so that you can hit your protein and fiber goals while simultaneously being in a calorie deficit if your goal is to lose body fat. Now, this episode was a lot. I hope you took some notes. If you are looking to hit these protein and fiber goals, because again, you should be considering protein and fiber goals if your goal is to lose body fat, even if your goal is to build muscle. Now, building muscle might be a different story. You might not want to excessively hit fiber because you need to be eating enough to maybe be in a calorie surplus, and fiber can hold you back from eating enough. Conversation from a different story. But protein and fiber is, in my eyes, the two most important things that you should be implementing in your diet if your goal is simply to become a healthier individual and if your goal is to lose body fat. And for a lot of you guys, that's going to be you listening out there. So I hope what you learned today was helpful. I hope it's actionable, and I hope you start to take action on it yourself. Now, in the meantime, you need to take part in the 1-week free trial of the 10-week transformation by going to nickcarrier.com/free trial. You're going to get workouts, you're going to get recipes, and you're going to learn about the art and the science of habit formation that will make you look about habits and make you look at your health and fitness journey in a completely different and new way that is going to be so much more beneficial. This is the way that I coach my 10-week transformation clients, of which I've changed the bodies and the lives of over 700 people up to this point. So take part in the nickcarrier.com/free trial today. And if you're listening to this at the day of the release of this episode, then the 10-week transformation is opening for registration today at 9 a.m. Central Time. August 21st at 9 a.m. Central Time. We are opening up registration for the final 10WT of 2024. It'll run from October 7th to December 13th. You guys, this is an opportunity to not wait until 2025 to get your health in check, to not wait until 2025 to start looking and feeling your best, but to get it done now. To finish 2024 looking and feeling your best, and not letting the holidays get the best of you, not making the excuses of candy at Halloween, at stuffing at Thanksgiving, and beef at Christmas, but getting things situated and staying focused now to finish off 2024 looking and feeling your best. You can go to nickcarrier.com/10WT to get signed up for that today. If you're in Nashville, you can sign up for the 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 10 a.m. group. If you're not in Nashville, you can sign up for the virtual group as well. You can go to nickcarrier.com/10WT. But ultimately, you guys, I hope today helps you get closer and closer to your health and fitness goals, and ultimately gets you closer to your best you.